Hey folks, today we're going to talk to you about a game that's kind of come to be known as the butterfly game in this house, but we're going to call it Papillon. It's all coming up right after this. Hey YouTube, this is Pack Tech, and Papillon is another game that I backed on Kickstarter. It's another game with a lot of visual appeal. It's another game that lays tiles. So perhaps you've noticed a theme here. I went on what can only be described as a Kickstarter rampage in 2018 and 2019. And I bought a lot of different Kickstarter games. Now I knew a lot of the games that I was purchasing wouldn't be things that maybe my wife and daughter would be as interested in. So I did my best to kind of like think outside the box and look at stuff that I knew that they would enjoy based on the theme. I, of course, also kind of explored the different mechanisms and stuff and made sure they were things that I thought that they would enjoy. And I think for the most part I've been right. Papillon is a tile drafting, tableau building, and area majority game for 2 to 4 players. It plays over 8 rounds. And the players will bid for garden tiles to build their gardens, attract butterflies to their valuable nectar, and of course decorate their gardens with gnomes. The player with the most nectar at the end of the game wins. Okay, so let's quickly review some of the mechanisms in this game. So of course the first thing that happens in a round is the tiles are pulled from this green satin bag and are placed onto the main board. After that, the players bid for who goes first. You can bid up to 5 of these worms, which are basically called nectar. I'd like to note too that while the meeples come with every game, I believe these wooden worms here were kind of a Kickstarter deluxe item. So you can bid up to 5 nectar to go first. But you can also get nectar for bidding 0. You just don't get as many choices with your tiles. The player that bids the most gets the first choice of the tiles. You can pick everything from either a vertical or horizontal. The person that picks the row with the gnome at the end also gets the gnome, which can have a different value on the back. And you'll get the value of that in nectar at the end of the game. There are advanced versions of the game too, and the rules, optional rules, where you can add the gnomes into your garden and get even more points with them that way. So after you've gotten your tiles, everybody takes a turn or takes a few minutes and assembles their garden. Now it's time to lay your garden tiles. And what you're going to try to do is match the colors up. And if you do enclose an area based on the colors, you're going to lay a butterfly on top of that to remind yourself that you're going to take that butterfly off and put it on one of the flowers at the end. If you're lucky enough to close an area off with more than 2 tiles and you're the first one to put the butterfly on the flower, you're also going to get a bonus point. At the end of the game, people that have enclosed butterflies within the open spaces in their garden will also get points. On the butterfly placement phase, what you're going to do is take the butterflies that you've gotten on your garden, you take them from the garden and you'll place them on one of these flower stands. And that's the area control part of this game, because each of these flowers and the bases for these flowers are kind of randomly picked. But each one of these has 3 values at the bottom. And the first highest amount of butterflies gets the first number, the second most gets the second number, and so on. In ties, both players get the number. And so this goes on for 8 rounds, and then at the end of it, you tally up the various different ways of making points and see who wins. This is a very simple game, and we've played it mostly with 3 players. There's kind of a 2-player variant. I believe it does something different with the drafting, like when you do your bids at the beginning. I think that works a little differently. This is one of the very few games that are like this that don't take a long time. A huge positive of this is that it's kind of a thinky game. Like you can, there's some strategy here and there to do, but it doesn't linger on too long. In fact, I think the longest game we've ever played of this is maybe 45, 50 minutes. More than likely, if after you've played this a couple of times, even with fairly young children, you can kind of wrap it up in about 30 minutes. The game has a lot of visual appeal. It's got a really nice table presence. Strategy-wise, it's not boring. I kind of like bidding to go first. You have a real economy that you have to deal with your worms. You can do a little bit of light math, calculating the percentages here with the flowers, because especially realizing that ties get both amounts. So you have to choose whether you want to try to go for one or spread your butterflies out to different ones. And of course, that's completely dependent on how you build your garden. So it's a simple game, but there's a little bit of thinking involved, which obviously makes it a little bit more interesting. There's a certain randomness to the draft of the tiles, and so that I think it helps with the replayability of this game, making it. I think it could be interesting for several plays. None of us have gotten bored with it, and we've played it dozens of times now. There are a couple of downsides to this game, though. One, component-wise, when you first get it, assembling these flowers is not simple, and there's absolutely no instructions to do it. I've built really, really complex models, and I still struggled with a couple of these. Now, it's not terrible, and it's not impossible, obviously, but it wasn't intuitive and straightforward. And I think even one little printed sheet of instructions, even a small black and white laser copy sheet of instructions, would have made the whole assembly process of the flowers that much easier. On a positive side, the way that they've done the insert for this is perfect, and it fits all of these pre-assembled, so you don't have to build them for every game, and that's great. Unfortunately, the butterflies, although really pretty, are kind of fragile, and in this game we broke 2 of them, just casually playing very carefully with them. If you have small children, you're probably going to be repairing these all the time. They do come with extra ones, so you've got a little bit of a buffer, but they'll either come off the clips, or actually we had one where the clip itself broke, and well, no, that's pretty bad. That's definitely a negative to this game. One thing that I think is sort of a negative too is that the setup for this game is kind of difficult. These discs on the bottom are random, and I happen to pick one that'll stay. These discs at the bottom are random, so you just kind of pick them out, and you've got a little tiny piece of plastic that fits into the bottom of here, and then these are supposed to kind of fit onto this piece of plastic, but they don't stay. So inevitably, somebody's going to go to pick this up, and it just will come straight off. You could glue it down, I suppose, but then they'd always be those values. If you press it in, it does okay, but some of them just won't stay for any amount, with any amount of effort pressing them in. They'll come apart mid-game, maybe be a little bit fiddly to kind of put out there. This game, because it was a Kickstarter game, had, they Kickstarted some expansions with it too that you get automatically. We haven't felt compelled to play the expansions yet, but it adds some different predators, some more bug tokens, and other things too. It also adds, I believe, water fountains, or what do you call it, bird baths. This is visually appealing too. It's called Beyond the Meadow, but we haven't quite got bored enough with this. In fact, we change our games up, as you can imagine. We change our games up quite a bit around here, so we haven't gotten bored enough with this yet to dig into the Beyond the Meadow, but I'm hoping we'll do that soon. Definitely kudos to the people that designed the insert and stuff for this, because storage of it is really good. Basically, you can take all the tiles and put them back in this bag where you're drawing them out of, and then everything kind of has its place. Even if you got the Kickstarter extras, which are just like a little bit thicker wooden versions of some of the components. I believe the worms and the nectar had Kickstarter versions that were deluxeified into wood. This is a super light game. Definitely a gateway game you can play with just about anyone. If you've got little kids and they tend to break things, you might be too delicate for them. On the box, it recommends 14 and up. The theme is very light, and it's a quick game. It's not so quick, I wouldn't call it a pickup game just because the setup is a little bit more involved. But even so, even setting this game up, it isn't terribly difficult. It just probably takes a little bit more time than, honestly, setup takes about half the time it takes to play it especially at maybe a small play count at 3. Setup probably takes about 10 minutes or so, and then it's another 30 to 40 minutes probably to play it. So we have a lot of fun playing it. If you like tile laying games where you're building gardens and doing stuff like that, you'll probably really enjoy this. It's not nearly as deep as like Carcassonne or Tang Garden, especially. Had a lot more involvement in the tile placement than this does. But on the other hand, it's really, really easy to learn and easy to teach. So it's definitely in that kind of gateway game area. I'd say it's definitely, if not a gateway game, it's very close to a gateway game in that it's just really, really simple. Lots of really fun components too. Like some of them are fragile, but they're still really fun and they're still really beautiful. If you're into really deep, cerebral type Euros, you probably won't like this game. It's just a little simple for a lot of people. Some people that's a plus and some people that's a minus. I think it's just thinky enough to keep being interesting enough to play. To me, it's a lot of fun to bring out when I've got some company over and maybe I'm not confident that I want to like throw them all in on a game that's got a really complicated rules, but hey, we like to play something really fun, bring over a neat game. It's perfect for that. So that's my take on this game, Papillon, the butterfly game. There's more butterfly games coming out soon, I hear. So it'll be interesting to see how they compare. That's all I got for you for now. Until we meet again, enjoy your games, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. And what you try to do is close off sections. And what you want to do is close off section. So what you want to do is close off section. Okay, why can't I say that?
Want to play a board game?
Okay.
It's you.